Part 2, because the sequel, always better than the original. Let's learn some Okay guys, welcome back for the second installment of the Canon EOS M3 menus. In this video, I'm going to cover the shoot menus for the other modes. In the first video, I covered the custom manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, program, and this video builds on that. So if you haven't watched that video, click up there somewhere and go to that, because in this video I tend to reference a lot of that. Actually, a lot of it is comparing those menus with these because stuff changes. And if there's a feature in the menu system that I've already covered, I'm not going to touch on it again. In this video, we're going to cover some of the other modes. Still the shoot menu, but it's the other modes of the camera that aren't what I call the core modes, or what I call the core menu. So these modes are things like the Scene Intelligent mode, the auto hybrid mode, some of the creative modes, the movie mode. I'm going to go into those menus, and I'm going to show what's different between those menus and the quote-unquote core menu. So if you are in these modes and you don't see something, you might understand why it's not there, or at least understand that you have to switch the mode to get that particular one to appear. So I'm just going to dive right into it. So right now, part 2, Canon EOS M3 menus, more menus. Okay, so now switching this to a different mode, the Scene Intelligent Auto, which is pretty much, like it says, fully automatic. It's going to do everything. You can't even put it in manual focus, I don't think. Yeah, like you are leaving yourself in the hands of the camera. We're not going to talk about the mode itself today, but we're just going to look at the menu options. Going through the shoot menus again, I want to show you kind of just what's different, what doesn't exist, and where appropriate, I'll put the other one side by side so you can just kind of see what's missing. This one is the same, and so we can skip that because we've already covered all those. This one, however, is a little bit different. So real quick, what's not in here is autofocus operation. That's not in here, which does the servo or one shot, because that's going to be automatic. And the autofocus method, which does the live or the face detection tracking, or what's the other one? One shot? No, not one shot. Whatever the other one is, single point, or the face tracking. That's not in here. Continuous is there. Manual focus peaking settings, not in there because you can't put manual focus on. But image stabilization, lens aberration, that's all there. So I don't need to go into those again. Those are in the first video that I did. Feel free to check that out. On the third tab, all you get is the flash control. And so you can go into there. You don't get any of the external flash stuff that you got before. And all you can really do is mess with the red eye reduction. And if I actually flip this guy out, let's exit the flash. If I open the flash or expose the flash, I can have it to be auto or off. So even if I have it open, I can turn it off. But that's really about all you can do. Auto. So let me just turn that off. You can't do manual flash. It'll be ETTL metering, and red eye reduction. You can turn that on or off. That's it. That's all you get for flash control. Exposure bracketing you don't get. Control over ISO you don't get. All that highlight tone priority, lighting optimizer, metering mode stuff. That's all automatic now. It's doing that for you. So you don't have control of that in the menu. Okay, moving on from this one. In this fourth tab, there was a whole bunch of stuff in here for the other modes with white balance and picture styles and all these built-in noise reduction things. But for this mode, it is only autofocus auto switch, which is basically, once again, it is determining a lot when you shoot the picture. And one thing it's determining is something in motion or is it not in motion? If it's in motion, it's going to use the servo autofocus mode. If it's not in motion, it's going to use the the one shot autofocus mode. And by having this enabled, it's going to switch between those two. If you disable it, it's just not going to use the servo stuff. It won't try to detect motion and turn on the servo focusing if you have that disabled. That's all that does. And then the fifth one here, everything is the same except now, as opposed to the other ones, I actually get sound recording, where it'll enable or disable it. And those are really the only options. At least for this mode, those are the only options. So real quick, that was the fully auto intelligent scene mode. And since these are mostly the same, like I said before, we can move on to the next one. And the next one is kind of interesting because it's hybrid auto. It does something kind of unique in that when you take a picture, it is going to do all the auto intelligent scene stuff to figure out what's going on. But as you're composing and focusing the shot, it's going to record a little bit of video. And at the end, you can compile all this stuff into what it calls a digest movie thing. And it'll put it all together with these short little clips of what you were doing as you were taking the pictures. But again, we're not going to talk too much about it. We're just going to go into the menus. Let's go back to the first one. Now this one, you lose a few things. So let's go through this. Image quality. You don't get that because it's just going to do JPEG and it's going to make that video. The image aspect ratio, that's set into this thing. I think it does it just as a video format. Maybe widescreen, I'm not exactly sure. The shooting information display is available. So you get all that stuff that you had before. If we go back, reverse display, that's still there. It's the same as it was before. Image review and touch shutter, both same as they were before. Moving on to the second one. Again, much like the scene intelligent mode, you don't get AF operation, you don't get autofocus method, you do get continuous, and you do get the image stabilization and lens aberration for correction. And you also don't get the manual focus peaking settings because, again, no manual focus. And this is the same as before, you just get the flash control, so we'll move on from that. Now this fourth one is, again, completely different than before. This is the digest type. That's the little movie it makes at the end, the little digest of all the stuff you did. And this is just, do you want to include the stills along with that movie, or do you not want to include the stills? And that's all that does. Then the fifth one, again, this is the same. And you can enable or disable the sound recording and figure out what size video you want to make. And the rest of it is all the same. So let's reset this guy back to the first one. And let's move on to a creative assist mode, which is a fun little playful mode where you put effects on stuff. You can save them. And so you can see real quick, here's all the stuff you can do with sharpening and focus and color. Again, we're not going to get into the mode itself, just the settings. This one, you do get image quality back, but you don't get RAW, you just get a JPEG. It's going to be doing a lot of processing, and it's going to make the JPEG out of those settings that you apply. So the RAW image doesn't make I'm going to say it doesn't make any sense, but it's less useful in this scenario because you're doing so much creative assisting stuff that it doesn't save that. You do get image aspect ratio. Everything else is all the same as the other more manual, so manual and aperture and shutter priority modes. This one again is pretty much the same as the core, I guess, settings. So there's nothing really to talk about there. Again, in this third one, you lose the bracketing and the ISO control and highlight tone priority and auto lighting optimizer and metering mode. You just get flash control. So moving on from this third one with flash control. So this is, do you want to, those settings that you make in the creative assist mode, those adjustments to blur and color and other elements you can adjust, do you want to save those so that when you come back, you can have them again, or do you want to just start over from scratch? So you can enable or disable that. I'm going to enable it real quick because when I do use that mode, I want to hang on to those for a little bit. And then this last one, same as before, the movie settings. I keep looking in the sound recording to see if there's ever anything that gives me more control besides just turn it on and off. I think when I get to movie it will, but we'll see. And then the rest is the same. So that is the creative assist mode. Okay, so moving on from this mode, let me just reset this real quick to the first one. You go into the scene mode. Now this is still automatic stuff, but at least it lets you pick, if you know the kind of scene you're shooting. And by that, let me just go in here real quick. Quick menu, pick this. So this is for portraits. Then if you know you have landscape or close-up, motion, night, and food apparently is its own setting. So this will kind of, it's still pretty automatic, but it kind of targets the settings to these specific things. So that if you're doing a portrait, you probably want a shallow depth of field. If you're doing a landscape, you probably want the opposite of that. And so it's going to try to do that, but it kind of lets you pick, it's automatic, but it kind of lets you try to tailor it a little bit to a certain scene. But let's just look at the menu settings for this. This is the same. You get all your image quality stuff and your image aspect ratio. I won't spend too much time on it. You've seen it all a couple of times. This one, you lose some of the autofocus options, specifically the autofocus method. In this particular mode is disabled. I have a feeling, though, that if you changed it from portrait to landscape or motion, that AF method you might get enabled again. But in the portrait version of this, it's disabled. But you don't get the AF, it's not the AF mode. I can't remember the terminology they use for it. Give me just a second to come back to that. And it is called the AF operation. So that one is usually the first one, but it's gone in this one. So flash control, again, that's what you get. And then one thing to notice in this scene mode of the camera, there's not 5 sections per shoot, there's only 4. What's usually the 5th one, which is now the 4th one in here, which means that the original 4th one that's in all the other ones that has all the white balance stuff and noise reduction stuff, that stuff's gone in this mode. So you don't even get that original 4th tab. So everything moves down 1, so now your 4th tab is all the movie stuff. And that's what that one is. So let's move on to one more image capturing mode. And this one is, I don't really know what they call this one, but it has all kinds of little effects in it. Let me look at this real quick. Image effects creative filters is kind of what they call this section. And much like the scene one, like you put it in this mode and then you can actually pick the kind of thing that you want to do. So you have HDR, you have a fisheye effect, then you have all these other weird little art bold and water painting, miniature, which is kind of a tilt shifty kind of look, a toy camera, soft focus, and grainy black and white, because who doesn't love that? Let's move back to the first one here to see what we have. So, I mean, it's kind of fun. It's just going to save JPEGs for a lot of these, and but you can go through and see which ones. I think they all, for this one, I think they all do JPEGs for all these artistic things, because there's so much processing that they can't do, that there's the RAW is so different that you don't want it. And so I think most of these are just JPEG. But you can choose the aspect ratio, and a lot of the other settings are the same, but in image quality, you just don't get the option of RAW. See, RAW unavailable in creative filters. Okay, good to know. So in this one, again, actually, let's do something real quick where I turn off manual focus, and then I get all that stuff back. This is all the same. So you do have full control over the autofocus and manual focus and image stabilization. Flash control, again, is all you get in this one. And again, the 4th, well, it's usually the 5th tab is now the 4th, because the 4th one is completely gone. And then this is all the movie stuff. And sound recording, yep, still just enabled. I know that was, I kind of went through those a little bit faster than the first ones, but hopefully you can kind of see how the menu varies a little bit depending on what mode you're in. And if you go through these and you're seeing something, or you're looking for something, you don't see it, it might just be that it's not available in that particular mode. So when in doubt, if you want to see most of the stuff, go to those manual and actor priority and shutter priority modes, and you probably have access to that setting that you're looking for, but it's probably not available to what you're shooting in. Okay, for the last of the shooting menus, just to kind of show real quick the one slight difference between the rest of it, I'm going to look at the movie ones. This will cover us for all the shoot menus. And I promise the rest of the tabs will move a lot faster because they're a lot more similar to each other. It's just that this shoot menu varies quite a bit between the modes. So going into the menu, starting with the first shoot one, you do still get an image quality settings because you can still take still images in movie mode just by hitting the shutter. If there's not a movie recording, you can just use the shutter and take a picture. And actually, so like, you know, it's in movie mode, but it's not recording, and I can take a quick shot. Now, the thing I wonder is if I am recording, here I am recording, I can actually take one. Oh, it's recording too, and it says recording. How fun is that? Okay, I just want to check that out real quick. So you do get image quality settings, but you don't get aspect ratio settings because it's a movie, so that image aspect ratio is defined by the movie that you're recording. But you do get all your shooting information display and reverse display and image review, and you don't get a touch shutter in this particular mode. So that's one thing that's missing. So in this one, you don't get the AF operation of servo or single point. What you do get, sorry about the truck in the background, but what you do get is in the movie you can turn servo on and off. You can also do manual focus, and then the rest of this is still the same. So on to shoot 3, you don't get bracketing because it's for movies. Now for the ISO speed, I'm shooting in movie manual, or at least this is currently set to movie manual. And so I do get control over ISO speed. There is an automatic setting for movies in which ISO speed doesn't show up. It's kind of weird that they did it like that, but that's just the way it works. So ISO speed here is the same as before. Shoots 400, max 32. And then you get your highlight tone priority and automatic lighting optimizer, but you don't get metering mode and you don't get flash control. There's a flash you don't use for recording movies, and then you don't get the metering mode for some various reason. Moving on to 4, you do get all the white balance stuff that you need and the picture style. Now you will use picture styles in movie mode, and actually I'll do another video on that about the right picture style for movies, depending on if you're going to grade it afterwards or if you just want to choose one of the presets. But the picture styles can be very helpful when you're recording video, for either you don't want to process it and you just want to take the color as it is, or you want to record it in a way that makes it easier to color grade later in some software. But all of the high-speed noise reduction and long exposure noise reduction doesn't apply to movies, so that's not there. And yeah, so that's that one. Now we get to the actual, probably most relevant place to have these settings is in this mode. So you do have your recording size. Now sound recording, if you've watched the previous videos, you've noticed that sound recording has either been disabled or it's only been like as a control at all, or you've been able to select it, but the only options are enable or disable. However, when you're doing movies, or when you're in the movie mode or video mode, you actually get some options outside of enable or disable. You can have the levels be automatic, or you can have them be manual, or you can just turn off sound recording. And then if I put it on manual, I then get access to this, and I can see the meter, the sound meter, sound gauge, levels. Levels is the word I'm looking for. You can see the levels going up and down there, so you can adjust that as you see fit. I'm going to put this back on automatic though. And then a wind filter. So you can turn that on or automatic, or excuse me, you have it be automatic or off to try to get rid of some of the wind noise if that's a problem in wherever you are. If you're outdoors and you don't have like a mic that has like any kind of covering on it, it's just a bare mic, you might want to try that to see if that works out. And well, that one was super fast. So that is the end of all the shoot menus for all the different modes. Okay guys, that covers the shoot menus for all the modes. We're done with those. I know you're happy to not have to learn that stuff anymore. In the last video of this, I'm going to cover the rest of the menu system. It's more shared across all the modes, so we're not going to have to do as much compare and contrast. It's a lot simpler and it's a lot more straightforward for the other ones. So if you'd like to be notified when that video is available, just click on the subscribe link and YouTube will tell you stuff when things get uploaded. You know how it does the thing. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Click like things. And if you like this video and you don't want to click on things or do anything else or ask any questions, that's okay too. Whatever.